The letter trembled in my hands as I read it for the fourth time, still unable to process the audacity of what I was seeing. My in-laws were actually trying to take my children away from me. 3 months after burying my husband, this was how they chose to honor his memory. My name is Willow, and until recently, I thought I knew what it meant to face life's challenges. But nothing could have prepared me for this. Mom, is everything okay? Trinity's voice pulled me from my shock. My 12-year-old daughter stood in the doorway of our kitchen, her brother Stephen peeking around her shoulder. Both of them wore the same worried expression I'd seen too often since their father's death. I forced a smile, quickly folding the letter and tucking it into my pocket. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. How about some breakfast?" "You don't look fine," Stephen said, climbing onto one of our kitchen stools. At 10, he was already too perceptive for his own good, just like his father. The doorbell rang before I could respond. Through the glass, I saw Victoria's perfectly coiffed silver hair and Kent's tall frame. My in-laws had impeccable timing, as always. "Kids, go upstairs and finish getting ready for school," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "But we haven't eaten," Stephen started. "Now please." They must have heard something in my tone because they went without further argument. I waited until they were upstairs before opening the door. "Willow, dear," Victoria said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "We need to talk." "About this?" I pulled out the letter. "A custody suit? Really?" Kent cleared his throat. "It's for the best. The children need stability." "Stability?" My voice cracked. "Their father died 3 months ago, and you think tearing them away from their mother will give them stability?" Victoria pushed past me into the house. "Look at this place, Willow. Dishes in the sink, laundry visible from the living room. Jermaine would be devastated to see his children living like this." My phone buzzed. A text from June. "On my way. Don't let them in." Too late for that warning. "I'm a single mother working full-time while grieving my husband," I said, fighting to keep my voice level. "Some dishes in the sink don't make me an unfit mother." "No," Kent agreed, "but your history of depression does." I froze. "What?" "We have records of your therapy sessions from college," Victoria said, examining her manicured nails. "Post-traumatic stress disorder after that car accident. Anxiety, depression, not exactly stable parent material." The room spun slightly. "Those records were private. How did they—" "Get out!" June's voice cut through my panic. She stood in the doorway, her usually friendly face hard with anger. "Or I'm calling the police. We're concerned grandparents visiting our grandchildren," Victoria said smoothly. "You're trespassing," June countered, already dialing, "and harassment is a crime in this state." Kent grabbed Victoria's arm. "We'll go, but this isn't over, Willow. You'll be hearing from our lawyers." After they left, June hugged me tight as I finally let the tears fall. "They're trying to use my therapy against me," I whispered. "Who does that?" "Monsters," June said firmly, "but we're not letting them win. I know a lawyer, Felicity Wong. She specializes in family law, and she's absolutely brilliant. We're calling her right now." Upstairs, I heard movement, the kids getting ready for school, their world still somewhat normal despite everything crumbling around them. I thought of Jermaine, of his last words to me in the hospital. "Take care of our babies, Will. Don't let anyone come between you and our kids." I wiped my eyes and straightened my shoulders. "Make the call." June squeezed my hand as she dialed, and I heard Trinity calling from upstairs about missing homework. Normal life wasn't going to pause for this battle. I had to find a way to fight while keeping their world stable. "Felicity? Hi, this is June Underwood. I have a friend who needs your help urgently." "Yes, it's a custody case, but there's more to it. The grandparents are trying to use private medical records." As June explained the situation, I went to the kitchen to make breakfast. The kids would need to eat before school, dishes in the sink or not. Victoria and Kent might have money and connections, but they had forgotten one crucial thing. I was their mother, and I would fight with everything I had to protect my children. They wanted a war? Fine. But they were about to learn that underestimating me was their first mistake. "These photos have been doctored," Felicity said, spreading the evidence photos across her desk. "Look at the timestamps. They don't match the metadata." I leaned forward, studying the images that Victoria and Kent had submitted to the court. They showed my house in complete disarray, with empty wine bottles scattered across the coffee table and what appeared to be drug paraphernalia in the background. "But I've never—" I started. I know, Felicity interrupted, her dark eyes sharp. That's exactly why these caught my attention. The lighting's wrong, the shadows don't match, and whoever did this forgot that digital images leave traces. June, who had been quietly examining the photos, suddenly grabbed one. Wait a minute. This mess they photographed. That's from Victoria's own house. Look at the curtains in the reflection. Those are her hideous designer drapes that she wouldn't shut up about at last year's Christmas party. Felicity's eyebrows shot up. Are you sure? Absolutely. I'd recognize that pattern anywhere. She paid some ridiculous amount for them and made sure everyone knew it. My phone buzzed. A text from Trinity. Grandma Victoria just picked Stephen up from school. Said you knew about it? My heart stopped. They took Stephen. What? June and Felicity said in unison. I showed them the text. They don't have permission to pick him up. His school knows this. Felicity was already dialing. This is attorney Felicity Wong. I need to speak to Principal Martinez immediately. Yes, I'll hold. June grabbed her car keys. I'll drive. We'll get him back. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to Victoria and Kent's sprawling mansion. My hands were shaking as I rang the doorbell, Felicity right beside me. Victoria opened the door, feigning surprise. Willow, we were just about to call you. Stephen wasn't feeling well. Save it, Felicity cut in. You violated custody agreements by removing a minor from school without parental consent. Return him now or we're calling the police. I'm his grandmother, Victoria snapped. I have rights. You have nothing, Felicity corrected. And this little stunt? It's going in my motion to the judge tomorrow morning. Stephen appeared behind Victoria, looking confused. Mom, what's going on? We're going home, honey, I said, holding out my hand. Come on. He started forward, but Kent appeared, placing a hand on his shoulder. Stephen, buddy, we thought you might want to stay here tonight. Your room is all set up. Remove your hand, Felicity said, her voice ice cold as she held up her phone. I'm recording this, and I've already texted the police. Your choice. Kent's face reddened, but he dropped his hand. Stephen ran to me, and I wrapped my arms around him. This isn't over, Victoria called as we walked away. We have more evidence. You mean like these doctored photos? Felicity held up her briefcase. I look forward to discussing them in court, along with the illegal access of private medical records and today's attempted kidnapping. In the car, Stephen was unusually quiet. Mom, he finally said, Grandma and Grandpa said you were sick, that you couldn't take care of us properly. My heart cracked. Honey, look at me. Are you hungry? He nodded. Are you clean? Dressed? Do you have what you need for school? Another nod. That's because I take care of you, every day. Yes, I went to therapy in college, after a car accident that scared me. That doesn't make me sick. It made me stronger, smarter, and a better mom because I learned how to handle tough times. Like now? He asked softly. Exactly like now. Back at my office, Felicity spread out more documents. They've been planning this for months. Look at these bank transfers. They hired a private investigator right after Jermaine's funeral. But why? June asked. Why go to all this trouble? Felicity tapped her pen against a document. That's what's bothering me. This feels personal, very personal. Willow, did Jermaine ever mention any conflicts with his parents? Especially his mother? I thought back, remembering late-night conversations with my husband. He once mentioned that Victoria never forgave him for something, but he wouldn't elaborate, said it was ancient history. Nothing's ancient history when it comes to family, Felicity said, and I think that's our key. June, can you dig into Victoria's past? Social media, newspaper archives, anything you can find? June nodded. I'm on it. Looking at the fabricated evidence spread across the desk, I felt a chill. They're not just trying to take my kids, are they? They're trying to destroy me completely. Yes, Felicity agreed, but they made one crucial mistake. What's that? She smiled grimly. They left a paper trail, and I'm very, very good at following trails. You need to see this. June burst into my kitchen, laptop in hand. It was nearly midnight, but neither of us had been sleeping much lately. I found something in an old society page from 25 years ago. She placed the laptop in front of me. The yellowed newspaper scan showed a younger Victoria standing beside a man who wasn't Kent. The headline read, Local business mogul's daughter calls off high-profile wedding. Keep reading, June urged. My eyes scanned the article. Victoria Matthews, daughter of industrialist Robert Matthews, has canceled her engagement to James Richardson, citing irreconcilable differences. The merger between Matthews Industries and Richardson Corp. Is expected to proceed as planned. Now look at this. June pulled up another article, dated 3 months later. Matthews Industries files for bankruptcy following failed merger. The pieces started falling into place. She was supposed to marry for business, wasn't she? And then Jermaine came along, June said softly. Her only son, who was supposed to take over the family business and restore their fortune. Instead, he became a teacher and married me. I finished, a nobody from the wrong side of town. My phone rang. Felicity. Turn on the news, she said without preamble. Channel 7. The TV flickered to life, showing Kent standing outside the courthouse. We're simply concerned grandparents, he was saying. Our son's death revealed disturbing patterns in our daughter-in-law's behavior. We're acting in the best interests of our grandchildren. That's not the interesting part, Felicity said. Watch who's standing behind him. The camera panned slightly, showing a familiar face that made my blood run cold. Is that James Richardson? Felicity confirmed. Victoria's ex-fiancé. He's been funding their legal battle against you. But why, after all these years? Revenge, June said. Victoria lost him his merger. Now they're working together to take everything from you. A knock at the door made us all jump. Trinity appeared in her pajamas, looking worried. Mom, I found something in Dad's old study. She held out a sealed envelope, Jermaine's handwriting clear on the front. Open if anything happens to me. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter and a USB drive. Dear Will, I read aloud, if you're reading this, something's happened to me. There are things you need to know about my parents. They're not who they pretend to be. The drive contains proof of what they did to cover up the real reason Matthews Industries went bankrupt. Mom didn't just cancel a wedding. She and Dad orchestrated the company's collapse for the insurance payout. People lost everything, including their lives. I found out last year and confronted them. They swore they'd changed, but I don't trust them. Protect our children, Will. Don't let them inherit this legacy of lies. Love, Jay. Felicity's voice was tight with excitement. This changes everything. June, can you access that drive? June plugged it into her laptop, and we watched as decades-old documents filled the screen. Bank transfers, emails, and most damning of all, a video of Victoria and Kent discussing the scheme with James. They're all in it together, I whispered. They always were. Mom? Trinity's voice was small. Is that why Dad was so weird about us spending time with them? I pulled her close. Your dad was protecting you, sweetheart, just like I'm trying to do now. My phone buzzed with a text from Stephen. Grandma's here again. She's talking to my teacher. That's it, Felicity snapped. I'm filing for an emergency restraining order first thing in the morning. June, get that video authenticated. I want it ready for court. What about the press? June asked. Kent's out there spinning his story. No, I said firmly. We do this right, through the courts. I won't let them say I tried to manipulate public opinion. Felicity nodded approvingly. Smart, but we need to move fast. They'll know something's up when we file the restraining order. Trinity hugged me tighter. Dad knew, didn't he? That's why he wrote the letter? Your dad was always the smartest person I knew, I said. He just wanted to protect his family. And now we'll protect each other, she said with a determination that brought tears to my eyes. June looked up from the laptop. These documents, they implicate James in at least 3 cases of corporate fraud. No wonder he's helping them. If this gets out, they all go down. Felicity gathered her things. Get some sleep, all of you. Tomorrow we start fighting back. And Willow, we're not just going to win custody. We're going to make sure they can never hurt another family again. As I tucked Trinity back into bed, I thought about Jermaine's letter. Even after death, he was still protecting us, still fighting for our family. We won't let you down, I whispered to his memory. I promise. They've been paying off teachers, Felicity announced, dropping a stack of bank statements on her desk. 3 of them, to be exact, all ready to testify about your unstable behavior at school events. I recognized one of the names. Ms. Peterson? But she's Stephen's favorite teacher. Was, June corrected, scrolling through her tablet, until Victoria deposited $10,000 into her account last month. The betrayal stung, but I forced myself to focus. What about the restraining order? Granted this morning, Felicity said. They can't come within 500 feet of you or the kids, but that's not the biggest news. She pulled out her phone, playing a voicemail on speaker. Ms. Wong? A trembling voice filled the room. This is Margaret, Victoria, and Kent's former housekeeper. I have information about what really happened the night Mr. Germain confronted his parents. Please call me back. June sat up straighter. The night before his accident? My heart stopped. Are you saying? We're not saying anything yet, Felicity cut in. But I'm meeting Margaret in an hour. Want to come along? The diner was nearly empty when we arrived. Margaret sat in a corner booth, nervously shredding a napkin. She looked older than I remembered, her hands shaking as she clutched her coffee cup. I should have come forward sooner, she said after we sat down. But they threatened my grandson's college fund, said they'd make sure he never got into a good school. Take your time, Felicity said gently. Tell us what happened. It was late, maybe 11. Mr. Germain came bursting in, waving papers. He was shouting about insurance fraud, about people dying. Mrs. Victoria started crying, but it was fake. I'd seen those tears before. Mr. Kent tried to buy him off, offered him money to keep quiet. My coffee grew cold as Margaret continued. Mr. Germain refused, said he was going to the authorities. That's when Mr. James showed up. James Richardson was there? Felicity leaned forward. Margaret nodded. They didn't know I was still in the house. I heard Mr. James say, "Handle it or I'll handle it myself." The next day, she choked up. The next day, Mr. Germain had his accident. The diner seemed to spin around me. Are you saying they had something to do with his death? I don't know for sure, Margaret whispered. But that night after Mr. Germain left, I heard Mrs. Victoria on the phone. She said, "Make it look natural." Felicity's phone buzzed. She read the message, her eyes widening. June found something. We need to go, now. Back at the office, June had covered a wall with photographs and documents. Look at this. She pointed to a series of text messages. The day of Germain's accident, James made 3 calls to a burner phone. The same number called Victoria right after Germain's crash was reported. That's circumstantial, Felicity warned. This isn't. June pulled up a video. Traffic cam footage from that day. Watch the silver car behind Germain's. We watched as a silver sedan deliberately swerved toward Germain's car, causing him to lose control. I ran the plates, June said quietly. The car was rented by one of James's shell companies. The room went silent. Finally, Felicity spoke. This isn't just a custody case anymore. This is murder. My phone chimed. A text from Trinity. Mom, there's a weird package here from Grandma Victoria. Don't open it, I texted back. Don't touch it. I'm coming home. I'll call the police, Felicity said, already dialing. June, get that video to my contact at the DA's office. Margaret, we'll need your testimony. The package sat innocently on my front porch, a simple brown box with Victoria's elegant handwriting. The police bomb squad approached it cautiously. It's clean, the technician finally announced. Just photos and a note. The photos showed Germain and me in happier times. The note read, "It's not too late to drop the custody case. Don't make us handle this the hard way. Again." Trinity read the note over my shoulder. Mom, did they kill Dad? I pulled her close, feeling Stephen join our hug. I don't know, baby, but we're going to find out, and this time, they're not going to get away with it. Felicity appeared beside us. The DA wants to meet tomorrow. They're opening an investigation into Germain's death. What does that mean for the custody case? I asked. It means, Felicity smiled grimly, that Victoria and Kent just made their biggest mistake yet. They threatened you in writing, with witnesses. Looking at my children's faces, I felt a fierce determination replace my fear. Then let's make sure it's their last mistake. Mom, Stephen asked, are we in danger? I met Felicity's eyes, seeing my own resolve reflected there. No, honey, they are. The courthouse buzzed with tension as Victoria and Kent's lawyer, Marcus, strutted before the judge. Your Honor, we have evidence that proves Ms. Willow's instability and unfitness as a parent. I sat straight-backed beside Felicity, watching him present the doctored photos. My children sat in the gallery with June, their faces brave but worried. These photos, Marcus continued, show a pattern of negligence and substance abuse. Objection, Felicity stood. Your Honor, We can prove these images have been digitally altered. Approach the bench, Judge Reynolds ordered. As the lawyers huddled with the judge, Victoria caught my eye from across the courtroom, her smile cold and confident. Kent wouldn't meet my gaze, his attention fixed on his phone. These allegations are serious, Judge Reynolds announced. Ms. Wong, you claim to have proof of tampering? Yes, Your Honor. Felicity gestured to our digital forensics expert, who approached with his laptop. The metadata reveals extensive manipulation. Furthermore, we can prove these photos were actually taken at the defendant's residence. Victoria's smile faltered. But more concerning, Felicity continued, is the pattern of harassment and intimidation our client has endured. Marcus scoffed. Baseless accusations. Your Honor, Felicity interrupted, I call Margaret Thompson to the stand. Victoria's face went white as her former housekeeper walked to the witness stand. Kent finally looked up, his expression panicked. Ms. Thompson, Felicity began, please tell the court what you witnessed the night before Jermaine Weaver's death. Objection, Marcus jumped up. This is irrelevant to the custody case. Your Honor, Felicity countered, it speaks directly to the defendant's character and their true motivations in seeking custody. Judge Reynolds leaned forward. I'll allow it. Proceed. Margaret's testimony fell like bombs in the quiet courtroom. With each revelation, I watched Victoria and Kent sink further into their seats. When she described the phone call about making something look natural, gasps echoed through the gallery. And this threat, Felicity held up the note from the package, arrived yesterday. The police have verified Mrs. Victoria's handwriting. Marcus scrambled to his feet. Your Honor, we request a brief recess. Denied, Judge Reynolds said sharply. Ms. Wong, continue. Felicity nodded to June, who brought forward a laptop. We have traffic camera footage from the day of Jermaine's accident. I draw your attention to this silver sedan. As the video played, showing the deliberate swerve that caused my husband's crash, Trinity buried her face in June's shoulder. Stephen sat rigid, his small hands clenched into fists. The vehicle was rented by a company owned by James Richardson, Felicity concluded, who, coincidentally, is funding this custody battle. This is outrageous, Victoria suddenly shrieked, jumping to her feet. You have no right, Mrs. Victoria, Judge Reynolds warned. Sit down, or I'll have you removed. You don't understand, Victoria continued, her composure cracking. She ruined everything. Jermaine was supposed to save our family name, restore our fortune. Instead, he chose her, this nobody, and then he threatened to expose us. Victoria, shut up, Kent hissed. But it was too late. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Bailiffs moved forward as Victoria continued her meltdown. James Richardson, who had been watching from the back, quietly slipped out the door. Order! Judge Reynolds banged her gavel. In light of these developments, this custody hearing is suspended. Bailiffs, please detain Mr. and Mrs. Victoria pending criminal investigation. Ms. Wong, I trust you're sharing this evidence with the district attorney? Already done, Your Honor. As Victoria and Kent were led away in handcuffs, Victoria turned to me one last time. You'll regret this, she spat. You have no idea what you've done. I stood, finally finding my voice. No, Victoria, you did this. Every step of the way, you chose revenge over family, and now you've lost both. The judge called me forward. Ms. Willow, in light of these events, I'm issuing an immediate permanent restraining order against your in-laws. Full custody remains with you. Court adjourned. Outside the courtroom, I hugged my children tight as reporters swarmed around us. Felicity handled the press while June shepherded us to her car. Mom? Trinity asked once we were safely inside. Is it really over? The custody battle is, I said, watching police cars race past, likely heading to arrest James. But there's more to come. The police will have questions about your dad's accident. Good, Stephen said firmly. Dad deserves justice. June started the car. Where to? I looked at my children, seeing Jermaine's strength in their faces. Home. We're going home. As we drove away, my phone buzzed with a text from Felicity. DA wants to meet tomorrow. They're calling it conspiracy to commit murder. We're not done fighting yet. I squeezed my children's hands. No, we weren't done fighting. But for the first time since this began, we were fighting on our terms. James Richardson made a deal, Felicity announced, striding into the DA's office where I'd been waiting. He's turning on Victoria and Kent in exchange for leniency. District Attorney Sarah Martinez nodded grimly. He's singing like a canary, not just about Jermaine's accident, but about decades of corporate fraud, tax evasion, and 2 other suspicious deaths connected to their insurance schemes. My hand shook as I accepted the coffee June offered. What exactly did he say about Jermaine? According to James, Sarah consulted her notes, Victoria called him the night Jermaine threatened to expose their fraud. She was hysterical, saying they'd lose everything. James hired someone to scare Jermaine on his drive home. It wasn't supposed to be fatal. But it was, I whispered. The door opened, and a man in a suit entered. Ms. Willow, I'm Detective Roberts. We've arrested the driver of the silver sedan. He's corroborating Mr. Richardson's story. Mom? Trinity's voice came from my phone on speaker. Are you okay? Ms. Peterson is here. She wants to talk to you. I exchanged looks with Felicity. The teacher they bribed? Put her on, Felicity said. Willow? Ms. Peterson's voice trembled. I need to confess something. Victoria didn't just pay me to testify, she asked me to plant drugs in Stephen's backpack. Said it would help their case. The room went deadly quiet. Did you do it? I asked, my voice ice cold. No, I couldn't. That's why I'm here. I've already given a statement to the police about the bribe. I'm so sorry. I should have come forward sooner. Detective Roberts was already on his phone. We'll need that statement for the new charges. Attempted evidence tampering, conspiracy to distribute drugs in a school zone. The press is going to have a field day, June muttered, scrolling through her phone. It's already trending. Wealthy grandparents' custody battle reveals murder plot. Sarah leaned forward. Willow, we need you to testify, not just about the custody battle, but about everything. Your relationship with Jermaine, his confrontation with his parents, the pattern of harassment. I'll do it, I said firmly, but I need to know my children will be protected. Already arranged, Felicity assured me. The court appointed a victim advocate specifically for Trinity and Stephen, and June's sister is a trauma counselor who specializes in working with kids. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the glass walls, we saw Victoria being led in handcuffs toward another office, her designer outfit replaced by an orange jumpsuit. She spotted me and started screaming. You think you've won? We still have money. We still have connections. This isn't over. Detective Roberts closed the blinds. Actually, it is. We've frozen their assets. All of them. Including the offshore accounts James told us about. My phone buzzed again. Stephen this time. Mom, there's a lady here from the newspaper. She says she knew Dad from college. Rachel? I sat up straighter. Put her on. Willow. Rachel's familiar voice filled the room. I'm at your house with the kids and June's sister. I have something you need to see. Jermaine sent me an email the morning he died. He must have known something might happen. Forward it to me, Felicity instructed, already opening her laptop. The email appeared moments later. My heart clenched at seeing Jermaine's words. Rachel, if anything happens to me, give this to Willow. My parents aren't who they pretend to be. I've attached proof of everything. The fraud, the deaths, the cover-ups. I confronted them last night. They offered me money to keep quiet, but I refused. I'm taking everything to the FBI tomorrow. I just pray I'm not too late. Tell Willow I love her and the kids more than anything. Tell her to stay strong. Sarah was already on the phone. Get me the FBI liaison, now. There's more, Rachel said. I have the original documents Jermaine collected. He gave them to me for safekeeping the day before the accident. I've kept them hidden all these years, afraid of what Victoria and Kent might do. But now they can't hurt anyone else, I finished. Detective Roberts straightened his tie. Ms. Willow, would you like to be present when we inform Victoria and Kent about this new evidence? I thought about Jermaine, about his courage in standing up to his parents, about his love for our family. Yes, I said. I want them to know that Jermaine won, that the truth won. Mom? Trinity's voice came through the phone again. Are you coming home soon? Yes, baby, and this time, when I say it's over, I mean it. Your dad made sure of that. As we gathered our things to leave, June squeezed my hand. He'd be so proud of you, you know. Of all of you. Looking at the email, at Jermaine's last words of love and protection, I knew she was right. We'd fought his battle, exposed the truth, and protected our children, just like he'd wanted. The courtroom fell silent as Victoria and Kent were led in for sentencing. Gone were their designer clothes and arrogant smirks, replaced by prison jumpsuits and hollow expressions. James Richardson had already received 15 years in his plea deal, and now it was their turn. Trinity gripped my hand as Judge Reynolds began speaking. In all my years on the bench, I've rarely seen such a calculated pattern of destruction aimed at one's own family. Victoria's shoulders shook with what might have been sobs, but I'd learned to recognize her performances. The evidence presented by the prosecution is overwhelming, Judge Reynolds continued. Corporate fraud spanning decades, multiple deaths connected to insurance schemes, and most egregiously, the calculated murder of your own son when he threatened to expose your crimes. Kent's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my clients maintain that Jermaine's death was an accident. An accident arranged by Mr. Richardson at their request, the judge cut in sharply, as his testimony and considerable evidence has proven. Stephen leaned against my other side as the judge listed the charges: conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, attempted kidnapping, evidence tampering, witness intimidation. The list seemed endless. Victoria and Kent, Judge Reynolds fixed them with a stern gaze. You are hereby sentenced to 30 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for 25 years. Victoria's performance suddenly shifted to rage. She spun toward me, her face contorted. This is your fault. You turned our son against us. No, Mother. Trinity's clear voice rang out. She'd stood up, trembling but determined. You did this. You killed our dad because he was honest and good. Everything you're not. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Victoria's face went slack with shock as she stared at her granddaughter. Young lady, Judge Reynolds said gently, would you like to make a statement for the record? Trinity nodded, squeezing my hand once before walking to the podium. At 12 years old, she looked so small there, but her voice was steady. My dad used to tell us that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. He died because he believed that, because he was trying to stop you from hurting more people. She took a deep breath. You didn't just kill him. You tried to destroy our whole family. But we're stronger than you. We always were. Stephen stood up next. I want to say something, too. Judge Reynolds nodded, and he joined his sister. You tried to make everyone think Mom was bad, he said, his voice shaking slightly. But she's the one who protected us. She's the one who fought for us. You're not our grandparents anymore. You're just criminals who happen to be related to our dad. Kent seemed to age decades in moments, slumping in his chair. But Victoria wasn't finished. We did everything for this family, she shrieked as the bailiffs moved toward her. Everything, you ungrateful. Remove the defendants, Judge Reynolds ordered. As they were led away, she turned to my children. Thank you both for your courage. This court commends you. Outside, reporters swarmed, but Felicity and June created a protective barrier around us. Detective Roberts approached with a small evidence bag. We found this in Victoria's personal safe, he said, handing it to me. Thought you should have it. Inside was a photo I'd never seen before. Jermaine teaching Trinity to ride a bike, his face full of joy. On the back he'd written, my greatest achievement isn't what I do, but who I love. There's something else. Sarah Martinez appeared, holding a folder. We've identified 3 families who lost loved ones in Victoria and Kent's previous insurance schemes. They want to meet you. Why? I asked. Because you did what they couldn't. You exposed the truth. They're calling you their hero. Trinity tugged my sleeve. Mom, can we go see Dad? I nodded, knowing she meant his grave. We hadn't visited since this all began. At the cemetery, June handed us each a rose. The headstone was simple, just as Jermaine would have wanted. But someone had left a newspaper there, headlines declaring justice for his murder. Hey, Dad. Trinity placed her rose down. We did it. We fought back just like you taught us. And we won, Stephen added, setting his flower beside his sister's. I placed my rose and the photo from Victoria's safe against the stone. You can rest now, love. They can't hurt anyone else. My phone buzzed, a text from Felicity. FBI wants to talk tomorrow. They're reopening cold cases based on James's testimony. More families might get closure. Looking at my children, I saw Jermaine in their strength, their courage, their unwavering sense of right and wrong. Victoria and Kent had tried to destroy us, but they'd failed. In fighting back, we'd grown stronger, closer, more determined to honor Jermaine's memory. Mom, Stephen asked, are we going to be okay now? I pulled them both close, feeling the warm breeze that reminded me of Jermaine's embrace. Yes, baby, we're going to be more than okay. We're going to be extraordinary. Ready? June asked, adjusting my blazer as we stood outside the community center. I nodded, clutching my notes. Through the doors, I could hear the murmur of the crowd. Families who'd lost loved ones to Victoria and Kent's schemes, others fighting their own custody battles, and advocates working to change the system. Mom, Trinity called from inside. They're waiting. Taking a deep breath, I walked onto the small stage. Familiar faces dotted the audience. Felicity, Detective Roberts, Sarah Martinez, and most importantly, my children sitting in the front row with Rachel. My husband used to say that doing the right thing isn't always easy, I began, echoing Trinity's words from the courtroom. When I started fighting for my children, I thought I was alone. I was wrong. The crowd grew silent as I continued. Because of your support, we didn't just win a custody battle. We exposed decades of fraud that had destroyed families. We brought justice to those who thought they were above the law. And now we're changing the system that allowed it to happen. Sarah stood up, holding a thick document. The bill passed this morning, she announced. The Jermaine's law reforms are officially in effect. Applause erupted. The new legislation would protect families from fraudulent custody claims and strengthen penalties for using the court system for harassment. But our work isn't finished, I continued. Today, we're launching the Phoenix Family Foundation. Thanks to the seized assets from Victoria and Kent's estates, we can provide legal support to families fighting similar battles. Felicity stepped forward. We've already taken on our first 10 cases, and with the FBI's continued investigation, we're identifying more victims of Victoria and Kent's schemes who need support. A woman in the third row raised her hand. My sister lost her husband in one of their insurance scams. We never knew the truth until your case broke open. How do you move forward after something like this? Trinity stood up before I could answer. May I? She asked, and I nodded. She walked to the microphone, her confidence reminding me so much of Jermaine. We move forward by helping others, by making sure no one else goes through this alone. My dad died trying to expose the truth, but his death wasn't the end of his story. It was the beginning of ours. Stephen joined his sister, and we're not victims anymore. We're survivors who fight back. June wiped tears from her eyes as she handed me an envelope. This just arrived. You should read it now. The letter was from a mother in Arizona. Your story gave me courage to fight my own battle against corrupt family members trying to take my son. Today, I won full custody. Thank you for showing me that justice is possible. That's the 15th letter this week, June whispered. Detective Roberts approached the stage. We've got another one, he said quietly. Family in Florida. Same pattern as Victoria and Kent. Want to help us build the case? I looked at my children, seeing the question in their eyes. They nodded. Yes, I said. Send me the details. As the formal presentation ended, people gathered in small groups, sharing stories and resources. Rachel hung back, holding something behind her back. Found this in my old college papers, she said, revealing a photo album. Thought you might want it for the foundation's wall. The album was filled with pictures of Jermaine teaching at his first school, working with underprivileged kids, building the life Victoria and Kent had despised. In every photo, his passion for helping others shone through. Perfect, I said. This is exactly what the foundation represents. Trinity and Stephen crowded around to see the photos. Dad would love this, Stephen said. Using their money to help people? It's like the ultimate karma. Felicity joined us, her phone buzzing. James Richardson is offering additional testimony. Says he wants to make amends. And 3 more families have come forward about suspicious accidents linked to Victoria and Kent. Then we keep fighting, I said. For every family, every child, every person who needs someone in their corner. June hugged me tight. You've built something amazing here, you know that? Looking around the room at all the people connecting, sharing resources, finding hope, I felt Jermaine's presence stronger than ever. We'd transformed our tragedy into triumph, our pain into purpose. Mom? Trinity held up her phone. The support group wants to know when we're starting the next session. Tell them tomorrow, I said. There's no time to waste. As we gathered our things to leave, Stephen picked up one of Jermaine's photos. Hey, Mom, I think I want to be a teacher like Dad. Help kids who need it. I hugged him close, watching Trinity already organizing the next day's activities with June. We'd not only survived, we'd found our mission, our purpose, our way to keep Jermaine's spirit alive through helping others. Ready to go home? June asked. I looked at my children, at the room full of people we'd helped, at the foundation that would carry on Jermaine's legacy of doing what's right. No, I smiled. We're ready to get back to work.